One of the gifts I was allowed to bring back is some new energy forms. Now, one of them is something that you can all have right now if you'd like. It's called Cool Blue Alpha. It's been measured in the laboratory. It's very regenerative, very calming. And if you'll just hold your hand up for a second and see if you don't feel something in your palm. Is there a coolness? A little coolness, a little buzzing in your palm? That's from the other side. It's called Cool Blue Alpha. And then, if you'll take it like this and put it in front of your heart's electromagnetic field and kind of feel where it kicks in for you, there's some sacred geometry there at about every 5 inches. Can you feel it building? Can you feel a little something in there, most of you? And if you aren't feeling it, just release your gut and think receive. Because this is good stuff for you. And it's measurable. Can you feel it? Cool. It's called Cool Blue Alpha. Up till now, the sign of a healer has been warm hands, but heat is very wasteful in physics. Superconductivity is what's next. Coolness. We're going to get cool. Now, when you put this in front of your electromagnetic field of your heart, what happens is regeneration begins, and I'll show you how. How many of you can see auras? Heard of auras? They are for real, and they are measurable and photographable now, but what auras are made of is the energy emissions from your body. Electromagnetic, sonic, thermal. There's about 10 different energies that your body releases constantly from itself that is absolutely measurable in any laboratory in the world. This is what sensitive, tuned people see as an aura, these waves coming off of you. And they can see colors because different frequencies have different wavelengths. It just boils down to that. And some of you see music when you see auras because that also equates. If you're tuned that way, you will hear music around people when you see their auras. But what you haven't caught on to yet is, yeah, that's fun stuff, and you can learn to do it. But what you're really seeing is life leaving you. Like a light bulb, the energy is leaving you. This is why I was shown on the other side that we grow old and die. It's the entropy equation in physics. You understand the entropy equation? Not enough energy, the system will finally degenerate. This is what happens to everything in this system except human beings are about to transcend that in very, very great ways. Physically, mentally, and spiritually, we have already transcended most of it. What's left now is to help the body transcend this physical limit, and we are doing that. People are going to live as long as they want in the future, but what's interesting is they do choose death occasionally. They really do. After about 150 years, you're going to want to change the channel. Especially when you understand how rich and genius reincarnation is. You're going to want to jump back in. It's wonderful stuff. When you can live forever, you're still going to choose to change channels. Most of you. You know? There's always the one that wants to stick around forever and see it all happen, and that's cool too. You know, in fact, we have some evidence of those characters around the planet. But, so what you're seeing in an aura is energy leaving. Now, what happens when you put it in front of your heart's electromagnetic field, which is one of the most powerful fields in your body, and it's a toroidal shape, which is like a donut. You put this in front of it, and it turns your aura toroidal. See what starts happening now? It's not just leaving you, you're recycling it. And isn't recycling consciousness coming in? Well, how about recycling your aura? You'll stay younger longer, you'll stay healthier, because you're recycling the energy, you see? And even aerodynamics and science has crossed this barrier now. In the 60s, they came up with, in aerodynamics, they came up with power plants that were light and powerful. Up till then, a jet could only stay up in the air a very short period of time because they were heavy, and they used a lot of fuel. In the 60s, they came up with new metals that were very light, new engines that were incredibly powerful. And that's why you see these jets now take right off the runway and go to the stratosphere. The jets have surpassed the biological limits of the pilots. The jets are faster than the pilots. The jets are faster than the rockets even. It's amazing. But that's that entropy equation. Now we have to build a power plant that generates more energy than we're expending. One way you can do is this. And I was shown this on the other side, and it's called the universal transformer. It's the most sophisticated and advanced piece of equipment in the universe. And the good news is it's cheap and everybody can use it. It's free. So you've just been given a gift. I hope you use it. You can use it, get the energy going, put it on any part of your body. It will regenerate. It's great for looking in the mirror and regenerating your face. A mirror is high technology that is still fairly undiscovered in this modern world. How many people understand scalar science and things like that? A mirror can be a scalar device. If you look into it, it's reflecting the energy back. You see what I mean? The energy, it can reflect energy back to you. And you can get this energy building up in waves and just stand in front of the mirror and think regeneration while running this energy and watch what happens. You know? Okay, so you've had Cool Blue and Universal Transformer. Thanks. What I'd like to do now is show a slideshow about my whole goal in coming back was to, as is the motto of our company, is we're a company for the development and practical application of unlimited consciousness, because this is where we have arrived, all of us. We're entering unlimited consciousness, unlimited being. We're in a super abundant universe to begin with. There's no lack of anything on this planet and no lack of anything in this universe. The only lack is in some of our concepts of what's available. So I'd like to show you what these little things are about. This is the beginning of the future. You may have seen them on Star Trek. Oh, and I was going to tell you, I'm glad I reminded myself. When I was on the other side, one of the things I saw was that Jules Verne's, the stuff he wrote about did not exist. Submarines, spaceships, aqualungs, those did not exist in his time. The children who read the books invented them. Isn't that kind of weird? I was shown on the other side, and I wasn't into Star Trek before I died, believe me. I just wasn't into it. Now I am, big time. I was shown that the Star Trek series for the world global brain is the Jules Verne's effect. Everything you see on Star Trek, our children will invent. And here's one of them right now for you. One of these children invented this. I do talks to just children for inspiration. I show them Star Trek clips of the replicators. How many of you know about the Star Trek replicators? They're the ones where you can go in the machine and make a glass of wine, a violin, anything you want out of pure energy. One of you is going to invent that for us. That's why I'm really sponsor these things with children, because I want to inspire them to watch these shows and invent those things for us. And any one of our children could do that. That's how important children are. And we should put all of our energy and most of our money into children right now, honestly, because they're bringing the answers in that set us all free. The future is non-industrial. The Industrial Revolution is only an inch in the human timeline, a quick burst of light which got all systems up and running at the right time to set mankind free. That's why we have all heavily invested our lives and energy into it. The rat race will pay off, believe me. Believe me, we were not meant to be industrial animals for much longer. Most of our past is non-industrial. All of our future is non-industrial. Now people go, wow, how can that be? I can't give you the answer, but your children can. They're the ones that are going to develop the non-industrial society of the future. Thanks built on the work that we have done up to this point. Technology will set us free. And you've heard about free energy devices. Well, believe me, none of that's being suppressed. We just don't need it right now. We're supposed to warm up the planet a little more. And we can talk about that later if you want to. There's a very important reason to warm up the planet at this time. Well, I'll give you a little quickie. We don't have an ice age, do we? We're way overdue for an ice age. We're not going to have any more. The genius of polluting the planet is Gaia work. It'll all be cleaned up as soon as the planet gets to the right temperature, which it is right there about now. So what's going to happen? Everybody's going to get pollution conscious, and we're going to change it. But from the first human fire to this moment, it has all been wisdom. The Gaia stabilizing herself. An ice age at this time in history would be disastrous to consciousness. Disastrous. And an ice age on a planetary life form, as I was shown, is basically a baby going to sleep and waking up. Ice ages are going to sleep. When they thaw out, they wake up and they stir around and they stir a little bit. Gaia's growing up. We're leaving those stages. She's stabilizing. She's becoming more harmoniously balanced. And in that equation, what's going to happen with all that is that the technology and spiritualism come together. Spirit and science come together in a high synergy to set us free. Some of the things I work with advanced physics people are downright metaphysical. Have you checked it out? It's downright getting metaphysical. You know, they're going to find that one thing one day that holds it all together, and they're going to have, you know, they call it charm and all that. Well, they're probably going to call this particle God. That holds it all together. You know, just some scientific word for it maybe. But quite often, you can talk aura or you can talk energy field. You're talking the same thing. And that's where I come in. I have been given the talent to do that, to bring metaphysicians together with scientists and to use altered states to get practical information. And that's been my whole focus. I believe channeling is fine and philosophy is fine, but I believe every human being in the world is a philosopher. Just sit them down in front of a fire, and we got a philosopher. Put them in front of a candle, put two together, and you got philosophy. That's great, but also what we need is to bring in nuts and bolts stuff. Solid inventions that set mankind free now, which is what we're all about in our company. First, we have to get out of our pain. The great healing on the planet is happening. That's why we started with these light devices. There's more healing going on now on the planet than ever before in history, and more unsuppressed modalities of healing than ever before in known history. Why? Because you can't take fear with you to the next level. The next level, fear does not exist. And if you try to take it with you, you can't. You'll be hitting a wall. How many of you are hitting that wall now with your fear issues? The fear issues are going off all over the planet right now, mainly because we don't have the Russians to worry about, and the alien thing is pretty much in hand. We've kicked some alien butt lately. You see that movie? So that leaves just ourselves to deal with. And in the end, that 666 beast some of you may have heard about is really man's inner nature, his own self-destructive nature that we must come to peace with. So as we move on, you're going to find that first we heal ourselves. Self-government evolves out of that. And at the same time, we evolve technologies like the replication technologies in which the entire world can live very well indeed. The future that I saw, it was so different. People don't have chest of drawers anymore. That's one thing I noticed. They don't have closets. And you women are going to love this because with the replicators, you can just decreate it and recreate it anytime you want to. There's no need for closets, things like that. They just don't exist. People don't drill for water anymore. You replicate water. I have a limitless supply of the universal energy. In the future, I overheard people remarking in a history class that I saw about people really drilled in the ground for water. Isn't that dirty? Isn't that dirty water? It's a completely different psyche about the whole thing. And in that world, you can have all the diamonds you want, so diamonds are pointless. They're just beautiful. There's no need for money. That's what we're all working for. Now check your heart out. Isn't that what we really want? Just have a world where we can all have fun and nobody have to work. Honestly, that's the world that I saw in the future. Technology and spirituality will bring us there. Spirituality will keep the technology balanced, and technology will keep the spirituality balanced. It's the yin-yang of it all, you see. So the future is quite different. It's well worth living for, and it's as close as your next incarnation for many of us. It's that close now. I think we can feel it. I think we can feel it. The world is just getting better and better and better, and I can go through 100 examples of how the world is much better than it was 10 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, and how the most advanced Mayan would trade you for your seat right now in this world. Believe me. For a roof that won't leak. Believe me, simple little things, comfortable chairs. Believe me, they would trade you in a minute. So what I'd like to do now, oh, here it is show you a slideshow of some of the practical application of what I've been involved in. And my example is, I asked the light before I came back, I said, why have I been showed all this? Am I special? The light laughed. No, the light said, well, you know, if you can do this, Mellen, anybody can. And they're right, believe me. I was one of the most densest humans you could have known beforehand. All I wanted to do in my previous life before was be the next famous movie director and get all the babes. That was about all I was living for. So I have slightly expanded. I've given up the movies. But in the beginning, I'm someone that barely got out of high school alive. I have no training in sciences whatsoever. I wasn't an inventor till after my near-death experience, and my first invention came out the same year in '82, and it went into 28 countries immediately. It was a new way of cutting glass, and there's a big need for cutting glass in the world. Little things from tools to shoes to you name it that eventually led into the field I'm in today, which is the future of medicine, which is energy medicine. When I first came back, I had all this knowledge, but no way to explain it to anybody because I wasn't a scientist and didn't have the vocabulary. And basically, I was someone who had seen the movie but couldn't quite explain it. So over the years, I have, first of all, had to get somebody to have faith in me. I'm nobody with no education, and I was going around, I think, with this flashlight. I was going around with this flashlight to people saying, well, it's about out now, but I was holding it to my finger saying, this is how we're going to heal people. They'd say, oh, Mellen, okay, right, hit the road, boy. Or what you've been smoking. I got all kinds of put-downs for trying to explain what I saw to people. But I knew what I'd seen, and I knew it was the truth, and so I kept pursuing it. And it was very, very frustrating with no money, no education, no contacts at all. I was raised in a little southern town in the South, and just that's where I started. And I was basically a job earning. I was at that time working at 2 jobs simultaneously, both minimum wage. So I know what it's like to work all day at a job and then get off at 5 and at 6 or 7 go back into another job till mine was, it could be anywhere from 10 to 11 before I'd get off. I know what it's like to go home so tired you ain't near higher consciousness. All you want to do is bathe and rest. I know that life, and I know that we're all going to transcend that life because we're very, very special, and we're not meant to do that for much longer. Machines and technology will do that for us. The replication technology is basically manifestation technology. Sure, you've got the Sai Babas and the manifestors, but the technology will bring it to the masses very, very quickly. I call it manifestation technology. So it took me a number of years to get faith in myself because I kept saying, who am I? And maybe all this is just stupid. Because nobody I was talking to could relate to what I was saying about energy medicine and all the things that I learned about light on the other side. Finally, met Phyllis Atwater, and she'll be here, I think, tomorrow. And met Phyllis, and I was given signs on the other side. I wasn't given everything, but I was given signs of things to look for, and one of which was I would meet a woman with white hair that wrote books. And at that time, I was supposed to begin my mission. And I met Phyllis, and it was like a door opened. She introduced me to other people and researchers, and things kind of snowballed after that. And I started getting calls from all over the planet. I've had people come in from all over the planet to see what I know and to ask questions. And for a few years there, I did it pretty much for free. If you'd send me a plane ticket, I'd go, and let my business slip and all that. And so I spent a number of years doing that, running around the planet from project to project and doing this and doing that. And everywhere I was going, I was hitting home runs. And this became a track record that people started to pay attention to. And the comment is, we don't know how he does it, but he does it. And a smart company won't care how you do it, how you get the information, as long as it's useful, as long as you get results. And so for years, I worked as consultants to corporations, think tanks, R&D departments. They would bring me into some of the wildest projects, and I don't study. I don't read much. I'll read your book, though. But I don't read much, and I don't like to prepare for projects. I don't prepare. And I don't want to know what it's about, except briefly so that I check it with higher self and see if I get the okay on it. Because I always check these more advanced things with higher self. Is it the time for this? Are these the right people to bring it in with? And if they won't let me pray before my sessions, it tells me a lot about them. And we always try to keep the spiritual involved in this science now as much as possible. So finally, I built up a track record of a record of showing up at places, hitting home runs right off the bat. And there's story after story about that. It's all documented and videotaped. But in some instances, I saved some institutions 27 years in research, they estimated, with the information that I gave them, if they just check out the numbers and that sort of thing. And so eventually, after a few big hits in which I got like consultant's fee and the shoe company got the millions, I found some business people I could trust who believed in me, who were quite successful, and they started this company we have now. And they look after me, and they let me do my part, and I let them do their part. And everybody in this company wants the world to be a better place as soon as possible, every day. So I'd like to show you some slides now about some of these projects that I've been on. How many people recognize this thing? This is fractal geometry. It's pretty, but it's also the closest mathematics we have to understanding Godhead. Because to understand Godhead, you've got to understand how chaos and order relate. And so I've always been fascinated. And to me, excuse me, let me get my pointer. To me, this stuff is tremendous eons of information, and you can put equations in and get this kind of fractal output. But you can trace Godhead in and out. You can trace, these could be your stream of past lives and future lives building up and affecting each other. It could be like the barcode of life. Fractal geometry like this is going to be very, very useful in the future. It's already very useful. Now, I have to prepare you for the next set of slides, and I'm glad it's a little bit after dinner. About 85 or so, my life took an interesting course. I started getting funding from all sorts of interesting people, private funding, and of some substantial amount. One of my first projects, which led me into a whole course, a whole event of my life, was a billionaire who wanted to know if psychic surgery was for real in the Philippines. Have you heard of that stuff? Okay. Well, I had a little production company, and he liked me, and I do make good films. So we put together a film crew, and I went over there for months and really got into it. Now, I can tell you right now, I had the advantage of putting together a good team that had already been there. Because the truth is, most of them are absolute phonies, honestly. And they're the only ones, by the way, that make it on television. Why don't they put the real ones on television? But the real ones were quite stunning, and I'll go through these rather quickly because a lot of the healing stuff I've done involves wounds and things like that. And I got into what you might call paranormal healing through this avenue, which led to many years of my life studying the ancient forms of healing, from American shamanism to Philippine psychic surgery, Brazilian stuff. And then I evolved into technology later. I'll show you some examples of where I've been and what we've done. This is me filming myself getting psychic surgery. We had multiple cameras going, by the way. And I worked with this man extensively for a while. I had a chronic knee problem since 5th grade or so, and so I was having him heal me. And we don't have all the slides. I've like 2,000 pictures we took, plus the largest video collection of this stuff in the world is in our private archives. But anyway, all the materials were collected and sampled later by pathology. That was one of our conditions to work with people. This is me again. They're doing the same leg, there's a different healer on the back of the same leg, because I tend to have taken all my karma in one leg or another. And you know, people do that. You tend to take your hits in some part of your body or another. And I tend to have taken mine in that leg most of my life. So this stuff was sampled and the whole thing. And what's interesting about psychic surgery is, I'll show you, who's next? Oh, yeah, Gary Magno was pretty spectacular. He popped the eye out of this woman's head, put in a glass of water, and and one of the doctors with us passed out because he saw the optic nerve pop like a rubber band. Here he is pulling out whatever was behind the eye, and we've seen several of these operations, one with the person that was with us who had a benign tumor behind her eye, and put the eye back in, and the woman could see. Now, that's pretty paranormal, I would say. This is Alex Urbido. He's worked with Shirley MacLaine and others, and here's my pointer. What's interesting about the real psychic surgery is that Alex would let me come out and put my finger in there, because I do have, my name is Mellen Thomas, and I do have the Thomas vibration. I'm the one in the crowd that will step up and want to put his finger in it for the rest of the true believers. And I have many times, and gotten blasted a few times. Put your finger in the wrong thing. But it's pretty... But basically, they could create these holes, and they would bring stuff to the surface. And you could put your finger in there, and it felt liquid, and then it felt like hamburger, and you could put your finger in, but it wasn't like a hole. It was like you were pushing through something, but it was more like raw hamburger, and very real. I could put my finger in all the way to the hilt sometimes. And we had different people examine the physics of this also. So anyway, psychic surgery was fascinating. The real ones are mind-blowing. In the order of things I've seen, though, don't rush off to the Philippines, because the best healers on my list, number 1, are in America. Philippines are on about number 6 on my list of modalities I'd try if I had something, honestly. We brought one of the psychic surgeons back with us, and we called it non-invasive healing technique, and got a grant from a pharmaceutical company. Brought him back to Kettering Hospital, where, and we also worked across the road in the Kettering Magnetics Lab, where we had the surgeon perform in front of doctors. And this woman here in the red dress is looking at tissue that was removed from her. And this is a pathology doctor, and pathology went right upstairs. But what's interesting, why I put this picture in, is something I never thought about. She picked it up with the tweezers and sniffed it. She went, she says, as a surgeon, I know the smells. And she says, this is real. This is fresh. And she was pretty amazed. But I never thought surgeons know smells and stuff like that. It's interesting. This is my office in Carmel. And this is how I am hard at work daily. I've been very lucky to have received good funding over the years to hire anybody that I wanted to hire on the planet. Isn't that interesting? Money was no object to some of the backers. So we were able to hire the very best people in the world that we could find, and luckily they're all for hire. This is at Stanford, and this is my visit to one of the Einsteins of our time, Professor Tiller at Stanford. How many of you heard of him? He's one of the more published, and he's also into metaphysics, by the way. Here he is receiving Cool Blue. Everybody I've worked with has received Cool Blue, by the way, all the greats and everything. And he's one of the Einsteins of our time, very much into scalar energies and what you might call frontier sciences. And he was very important to us at a point in getting advice and helping us with his opinion on certain projects. A great man. And this man is supremely important. Edward Teller, father of the bomb. A lot of people think bad about him, but as I said earlier, when we split the atom, we split the cosmic egg and began the new order. And being with him, and he's got a great personality, by the way, and great sense of humor, being with him was, for me, like standing next to Prometheus. I mean, from what I saw on the other side, very, very good individual. The nuclear power thing will fizzle out. We won't have that in the future, but what he was the spear tip of, the nuclear age, was very phenomenal and left a big impression in the thought form realm. And all of it good, by the way, honestly. Quite a great guy. I do 3 to 5 hour sessions, one a day during this kind of thing. And I only work with Crayolas on a piece of paper. That's what I bring in my briefcase. And I do my sessions at multiple levels. I keep my eyes open. I draw pictures. They ask questions. I give them numbers and coil designs, angles, anything they want, as long as higher self clears it. And basically, that's how I work. But all this equipment that you see here was to sit up to test this little sensor that I invented. And it has very, very good implications for the future. It's a biosensor. And this little sensor here on the table is plugged into all of this, all of this, all of that, all of that, and then it gives us a read over there. And